Hello everyone, and welcome to our chat about the social sciences here at Earlham College. We have some really wonderful panelists tonight, so don't be shy about asking your questions. This chat can really be tailored to whatever you want to hear about, so send those questions in. Let's begin by having our panelists introduce themselves and say a little about what they study here at Earlham. Mitch, would you like to start?
Yeah, so my name's Mitch. I am a senior politics major from Albuquerque, New Mexico. That's pretty much what I've been doing. I've been working with politics, obviously, for 4 years.
My name's Rachel Revis, and I teach in the psychology department. I teach our psychopathology courses, which is about psychological disorders, and I study child development, specifically friendship and bullying.
Hello everyone, my name is Alex Taylor. I am one of the assistant directors within the Center for Integrated Learning, and I'm also the social sciences career advisor. So I work with students map out their path within their time at Earlham and outside of their time at Earlham.
Hi, I'm Mark Lotzenheiser. I teach in the economics department and also the business and nonprofit management program.
So if you have any questions about those areas or anything else that you think of as social sciences, please send those in. But to begin, I would like to ask, is there anything distinctive about your departments or the type of education you would receive at Earlham in your major? Maybe this would be your capstone experience, Mitch.
Yeah, so in the politics department, we've recently gone under a kind of a change in the major. It now includes the abbreviation called the ARTS. It's argument, research, spelling it out in my head right now. T is theory, and then S is simulation. So this is really emphasizing the Earlham picture in general, pretty much of hands-on experience. So what we're doing in my particular case is my senior capstone class, which are all senior politics majors. We are creating a research institute that addresses the needs of the community in Richmond, and then currently we're working on getting funding for that. But it's something that we are going to create, and then it will hopefully last long after we leave as seniors. So that's something that we'd like to give back to the community, and something that I think politics majors, other places may not get that kind of experience, but here at Earlham we do.
Our department is also pretty hands-on. I'll just give a couple examples of things where students get that kind of experience. So in our human development class, which is a core class that's required for everyone, but we also have a lot of people take it who are interested in teaching or doing museum studies and things like that. We do a child case study, and so people identify a child between the ages of 3 and 13, and then they actually observe them and follow up with them and do tests and interview with them and talk to the parents so they understand parenting style across several weeks during the semester, and then they write up this large case study with all the notes and everything. It's often like 100 pages, and students really enjoy that, even though it's very daunting. It sounds daunting, but they really enjoy it and get a lot of experience doing that. And then we have other classes where, in one of my classes, for example, in my psychopathology class, students work out in the community. So they volunteer. We have a mental state hospital here, and so they volunteer with the patients there. There are lots of other places at the regular hospital, at the women's center, that sort of thing. And we have several other classes, but I don't want to take time up from the other panelists talking about all of them. But I'm happy to answer any questions people have.
So I work within the Center for Integrated Learning. It's a new department within Earlham, and so we help students make meaningful connections within the classroom and outside of the classroom, and that can look like anything between internship opportunities, collaborative research opportunities, in addition to community engagement opportunities. So we really help students identify transferable skills that will help them build their toolkit so they can be successful after graduation.
Well, we have a lot of work with students and the community as well. We have a professor doing research on the economics of education in Indiana. He's working with 3 or 4 students this semester doing that research. We have another professor who's doing a project with the city planning for Richmond and looking at neighborhood development here in Richmond. We're always having a marketing plan developed for nonprofits and businesses in the area, so we have a lot of work going on there.
I think one of the things that I'm hearing a lot of is how beneficial it is to be in Richmond, where students can get really involved in the community. So could you maybe give an example of a way that students are involved in the community in conjunction with a class?
So another example is one of my colleagues teaches a class called the Psychology of Sustainability. And she's done it a couple different ways, but the way she's going to do it when she teaches it next semester is she's actually going to partner with the city of Richmond, and they're going to try to use psychological principles to improve something in the community, and they're going to work with sort of community leaders to see what's best for Richmond. So they're not just going to go in and say, here's what Richmond should do, but they're really going to have a communication and collaboration with Richmond and then apply what they're learning to make a positive change in this community.
Yeah, and I'd like to build off of that. Mark previously stated how people in the economics department are working on current issue in Richmond, where I'm actually in that class called Urban Political Economy. We're looking at blighted properties, which if you're curious about what the word blighted means, feel free to Google that. But that's something that we're doing hands-on. So that's one experience I've had. We're actually going out to the community tomorrow to look at that. Another one is what I had is last year. Richmond came to us. I was in a social media marketing class, and we had to produce a social media marketing plan for the town of Richmond. And that's something that us current 21st century kids who grow up with social media and are always on Facebook, we really know how to do that well. So then we presented that to the community of Richmond. Now they're implementing it. And then my last experience, like I said earlier, is with this new research institute that we're creating. So.
Well, I think Mitch took all my examples, but I think it's a good example of Mitch as a politics major, and yet the marketing he was doing in the business and nonprofit management program, the neighborhood development he's doing through the economics, and so we have plenty of crossover.
Certainly, and that's the beauty of the liberal arts.
That's right.
So Earlham is also a place where students are able to work. Ooh, sorry, I just dropped my pen. You can't see me, but that's what happened. Earlham is a place where students can work very closely with professors. So how are students in the social sciences able to work with their professors, and what does that mean for later on when they're trying to get a job?
I actually just took a student to a conference in Long Beach, which was kind of nice to go to in February. And I had several students work on this project, so they helped get the presentation ready, and then she was actually there doing the presentation, and she talked with, leaders in the field and had conversations and went around and also looked at other people's presentations. So she learned about research, but also kind of learned about how you present at a professional conference. And then I'm taking another student to a conference in just a couple weeks, and she's going to present another study that I did with several students. So in our department, we have many students every semester working on lots of different projects, and then they help us prepare these presentations and work on publications. And in fact, this year I just had a manuscript accepted that I wrote with two students. So our students really get a lot of opportunity to work and learn about the research process and then how to talk about that research with other people.
Yeah, and I think Earlham has a fortnight program in which a professor will be doing research and invite a small group of students to come join him or her, and that research eventually goes somewhere to a conference or gets published someplace, and so they work closely, very closely.
Yeah. And when it comes to searching for a job, I think it would be very important for the student to highlight their communication skills, their presentation skills, the ability to work with others. And then when speaking with the professor, it's an opportunity for them to ask for a letter of recommendation if the project was successful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely for politics. I mean, it's pretty much what the previous people have said. You really work hand in hand with your professors. They want to get to know you on a personal level, and you work with them. I mean, Earlham obviously has small classes, which also allows us to have those opportunities. But in politics in particular, they walk us through various skills like were previously stated, like research skills, communication skills. This weekend, we're going to Washington, D.C. and learning lobbying skills. So that's something that is going to be very applicable for somebody that's interested in politics, definitely.
And this is just another little anecdote I want to share. We also, I think, do a good job of keeping in touch with our students even once they go. And so, I'm friends on Facebook with several of my students. And last year I had a student who posted something and that was sort of related to psychology, and she asked a question and I responded and we had this conversation. And even though she had graduated, we decided to do a study to address her question. And so we designed this study and I ran it here and she kind of helped me think through it. And so even once people leave Earlham, there's still the opportunity to engage in research and thought with the professors.
So Mitch, you had mentioned small classes. So, even in your introductory classes, what is it like to be a student in a social science class at Earlham?
Yeah, it's a very unique experience, I would say. In all intro classes, I mean, I've taken some with Mark. I took a couple intros with him. I've taken other classes with him. I think it's something that's very useful for a student when they take intro classes, that they're small. Because they are intro classes and they're going to be basically the class that tells the student, do I want to pursue this major possibly? Do I like it? Am I getting the attention from the professor? Do I enjoy learning what I'm learning? In politics in particular, our intros are very small. I think the largest I had was probably 20, 25. But that's great because it allows you to do simulations like we did for a comparative politics course on Iraq and the democracy process that they underwent in the previous years. And it's still applicable to today. It teaches you those skills and it allows you in a small classroom to really learn the processes and the concepts and such, and the various skills that were previously stated that the CIO will help you emphasize in your resume when you get to my time as a senior and trying to find a job. But it's definitely a useful aspect of Earlham to have small intro classes because that's when you're going to determine if I want to major in that, especially in the social sciences, particularly in politics. So.
He's a budding politician, can you tell? Along those lines, what is advising like for students, both in terms of choosing a major and then once you're in the major and then when you're trying to get a job? How are students guided through this process?
So students are assigned to an advisor when they come in, based in part on kind of their interests, and they're formed in an advising group so that there's some community among the advisees in that first year. And we meet with them several times in the first semester and as well in the second semester and kind of check in with them, see what they're interested in, help them discern what they want to be studying. So even though I'm a psychology professor, someone's matched with me and they said, yes, I want to be a psychologist, but as they're taking classes and we're having conversations, it becomes clear that they're really interested in peace and global studies or something like that. Then we talk about that and really try to find what makes the students feel passionate, what they're passionate about. And then that really just, the relationship kind of evolves. And once they've decided to go to a different department, then we find them a different advisor. But there's so much, I'm blanking on the word right now, but not formal, informal advising that happens at Earlham, so that even somebody who's not my, assigned advisee, there's still a lot of conversations going on about what they're interested in and where they're going and what kind of jobs they're looking for.
As part of the, I guess I would say, team within the CIL, I work primarily within career education. And so as a social sciences advisor, I see all students who have a major that falls within that division. And so when we meet, we would talk about career discernment in addition to academic exploration. So if you're unsure about your major, we'd have meaningful conversations about that, in addition to resume and cover letter development. And if you had questions about graduate school, I would also help you when it comes to the graduate school application process. So what does your letter of intent look like? Have you identified your letters of recommendation? Have you spoken with faculty? What type of programs are you interested in? And then before graduate school applications, we'd also talk about opportunities for you to develop your skills. So that's anything between internship opportunities, community engagement opportunities, fellowships. And so we would meet as many times as you would like throughout your 4 years here at Earlham. In addition to after Earlham, because we also speak with alumni too as well. So.
Yeah, I would echo the informal advising as well. There's so many times during a semester that I'll get an email or get stopped by a student who thought that they were going to major in politics and then thought, hey, what about the management major or economics major? And they'll want to come in and kind of talk about that and talk through it and talk about, well, what can I do with this major? after I graduate? What kind of opportunities are there to do research within the major? And so there's a lot of that kind of, even though I'm not your official advisor, you come to me to talk through some of those issues.
I think something that's also really interesting about the social sciences, hello everyone, I was a psychology major, but I'm not a psychologist, is that they do, as Alex mentioned, have a lot of transferable skills. So could you maybe give some examples of what your students may do after graduation that may or may not be in their area of study?
I can start. We have a lot of students, within the area of study. We have students who go on to helping professions, so things like social work. We have somebody who just went to a graduate program looking at geriatric care, because that's a sort of booming business, and she was very interested in that. But we also have people who go for example, we have someone at Georgetown getting her MBA right now, so she took some time off and led an after-school program and did sort of program designing for a school system, and then decided to go get her MBA. We have somebody at law school right now. So I think that social sciences really do give you a lot of skills in kind of how the world works and people think, that can be helpful from, things from helping professions, whether it's health, like being a doctor, or being a psychologist, like a therapist, in business, and it really is very widely applicable, I think.
I think one example that comes to my mind is that we had a student graduate with a major in economics. He then got a master's in public policy, worked on the Obama campaign, and ended up working in the White House. I don't know whether he was doing economics necessarily, but public policy issues.
Mitch, what are you planning on doing next year? I know that's a loaded question.
Yeah, I mean, my personal experience, because I'm only a student, I'm not obviously a faculty member, but I think in politics, when I'm looking at jobs, I'm not just looking at politics jobs, I guess you would say. I'm not looking at, just being a congressional staffer. I'm not looking to be a senator, even though that's what I would love to do. I'm looking at, business opportunities in business. Because I've taken business classes, I feel that I could go for those jobs. Economics, I've taken some of those courses, so I know that I have the skills in those various fields to kind of apply for those various jobs. And I think, like previous stated, just because you're majoring in something in the social sciences, in particular like politics, it doesn't mean that you can't take other courses in the social sciences like you have to. And for a politics major, you have to take economics, or it's a highly recommended course of action to take, but that will open more doors as compared to you just specifically take classes per your major. And like Helen said earlier, that's the beauty of a liberal arts education.
All right, we're going to throw a little poll at you here. So we have some questions, and I'd love for all of you to answer so we can see what direction you want to take this conversation. So the question is, what are you interested in hearing about? And your choices are the various academic programs offered, what the classroom experience is like, opportunities students have to conduct research, internship possibilities and other learning experiences, and typical paths followed by graduates. We've covered some of these, but if there's something you're interested in hearing more about, go ahead and answer that poll right now so that we can direct the conversation.
I'm gonna get some water while we're waiting.
All right, so looks like we maybe should talk about opportunities that students have to conduct research. So maybe expand on some of the things we've talked about before, and ways that students can get involved with their professors in a uniquely Earlham way.
Well, I think there are a couple of different things. So one is doing kind of research with professors, but the other is actually doing independent research. So one of a real strength for me for Earlham is that every student does a research project or does some sort of project as part of their senior capstone experience. At a lot of colleges, you can have that opportunity if you choose to do an honors thesis, but here everyone does that, and we give them the support that they need to be able to accomplish that in a meaningful way. So I'm working with some of our senior students this semester, and they're running studies. One is looking at they're really just whatever they're interested in. So kind of looking at video games and perception, how that changes how we see the environment. Another one is looking at gender stereotyping in musicians, and students really have the opportunity, over the 4 years they've been here to find their interest and answer a question. And we help them do that, but they're really doing that independently. It's coming from within them. And I think that's just as meaningful as doing research with a professor. And we have multiple opportunities like that in really all the departments, I think.
I think that's right. Our seniors do a wide variety of topics for their senior thesis, and that's what they're working on right now. It could be anything from a study of the financial markets to the economics of crime. I mean, it's just a wide variety of issues. In addition, we've had projects where the professors are working on a particular project. We worked on Earlham's health insurance policy a few years ago and got a grant to work on that, and hired a student to help us collect data and analyze data. So anytime we can, we try to pull students in with us and make our research part of theirs.
And the other thing I would mention, you said you hired a student, is that we do have funding to support students. So for example, I have 3 students who are working with me this summer, and they're getting paid to do that, and they're working on a project that I have developed, but several of them will continue on with me during the school year so that they're really kind of seeing all aspects of this project. So we have both the kind of time support to help students with that, but also some financial support in the summer in particular.
Victoria, I see you had just sent in a question about talking about specific research. Could you please push your raise your hand button if you feel like that adequately answered your question? Oh, good, it did. Yay. Another thing that people answered in that poll was that they would like to hear more about internships or other learning experiences outside of the classroom. So maybe Alex, you could kick us off.
Yeah, so right now I would like to think that we're right in the middle of internship season. And so what that means is our office is full of students searching for opportunities that are going to be meaningful for their future. And so right now we have a software called Simplicity, where students are able to identify internship opportunities that will provide them with a learning experience. There's a learning component attached to that. So when it comes to your interests, your values, you would meet with a career advisor and we discuss some different skills that you would like to gain over the summer. And then by using Simplicity, you'll be able to browse through internships that are currently available. And so those internships will kick off in June and conclude right before the fall semester would take place. Each student's interests and values are going to be different, but there are tons of opportunities out there. We have resources for students to use outside of Simplicity that would be helpful for the students. So it really just depends on their interests. But right now we are pretty busy, which is a good thing. So.
And we have in the psych department, we just send out notices, I would say 2 or 3 or 4 times a week for summer jobs and internships, and those are also sent to the CIL, which is the Center for Integrated Learning, and they have that kind of in their database. But just a couple that are at the top of my head. Last summer we had someone at Wadiko Children's Services, which is a summer camp for behaviorally disturbed children. And so she actually lived in a cabin with 13 and 14-year-old girls, and she was kind of responsible for them. And then she was also the one of the athletic staff. So kids of all ages would come through and see her each day, and they would work on, team skills and how to deal with frustration and be both a good winner and a good loser, and all of these kind of emotion regulation skills that kids like that need help with. And she said it was just a wonderful experience, that it was very, it was a difficult experience because she's working with these kids who are hard to work with, but that she just loved it and really found that's what she wanted to do. And so she's now pursuing, or she's going to pursue rather, in the fall, a master's of social work in Denver. And then we had another student who found an internship in Australia. So he's an American student, and he found an internship in Australia working with homeless teens last summer, and he really enjoyed that. And we have a lot more, but those are the two I'll mention right now.
Oh, we've had students, we have a company called Lithgow that hires an internship every summer that's typically coming from a management or econ background to do accounting work. And the other thing that I'll kind of throw out there is we have a good connection with the Philadelphia Center. And we've had wonderful experiences with that, where students go live in Philadelphia for the semester and do a couple classes and do a great internship. And there they've done internships across the board with one of the sports teams or a finance company or the Federal Reserve or the government. So that's been a great thing for many of our students.
And a number of our study abroad programs have an internship component, or study away as Philadelphia would be, but some of our abroad programs do as well. And students just get fabulous experience, both being immersed in a different culture, but also kind of learning really important skills and finding out both if that's what they want to do or if that's not what they want to do, because internships are important in helping you decide. It's not a bad thing if you do your internship and you're like, actually, that's not what I want to do. I discovered I wanted to do this other thing. And I think that's as valuable of an experience kind of either way.
If you're interested in learning more about study abroad, we have a YouTube video of our web chat that we did a few weeks ago about study abroad that you can look up and watch. We just got a question in from Victoria again, and says, does the CIL follow the path of psychology graduates? And how can you use alumni networks from Earlham students to maybe further your career?
Yeah, so say it again, sorry.
Victoria asked, does the CIL follow the path of psychology graduates? But I think this also is a good opportunity to talk about alumni outcomes and using the Earlham network.
Right, yeah, absolutely. So through the Alumni Network and LinkedIn, we contact and reach out to graduating seniors and alumni every year. A part of the graduate outcomes, we basically ask questions like, what type of work are you doing? Is it meaningful for you? Is it related to your major? Basically the where are you now questions. And so if you wanted to gain some access on some of the where are you now questions from alumni, we would be able to provide that information for you. So a good example I would say is in a fall semester, I met with a student. They were majoring in economics and they wanted to secure an internship in DC. And they wanted to know if other alumni have done that similar path. Did they get any internship experience as an economics major in DC? Do they currently live in DC? And we were able to identify alumni who live in DC with an economics major, economics background, and working in a different field. And so when it comes to getting that connection, making that connection, we would have that opportunity for you.
Another way that's not actually directly through alumni, but a lot of our graduates are seen as highly valuable, workers and researchers. And so we've had students who have either as summer placements or after graduation gone and done a research assistant position somewhere, and they make a good impression on that individual or that organization, and then that organization is very interested in our other students, and so our alumni have sort of forged paths that are now open to our current students, and I think that's a big benefit as well. That's not directly alumni, but is definitely related to alumni.
Yeah, definitely. As a student perspective, who actually is using these alumni connections, because I got 2 months left, it is an invaluable experience to really meet with alumni. And in everything, you have to be proactive, though, to find these alumni. From my personal experience, because I'm a politics major, I went to DC last year. I'm going again this year. Once again, we're going to have dinner with alumni. We're going to talk and about positions and such. And then I'm also meeting with a woman that came last week for our convo, which is basically a lecture series, and she talked about something. Her name is Andrea Seabrook, and she worked for NPR. She has her own podcast now, and she came up to me and other classmates, and she gave me her phone number. So I'll be meeting with her this coming week, and we're going to talk, and then she's going to bring some of her friends that'll hopefully connect me with some job opportunities possibly. So that's just something as well to keep in mind, that Earlham alumni want to help current Earlham students find internships, find jobs, whatever things you guys are looking for. Earlham alumni are always proactive in helping you out. I had a New Mexico alumni that I met before I even came to Earlham email me just recently and asked if I needed help finding positions or something like that. And that just shows you that the connection is there, not just immediately, but for 4 years and beyond.
Yeah.
So
I'm glad you mentioned that. You reminded me of an event that happens around homecoming called the Alumni Connection Social. And that's an opportunity for current students to meet with alumni to discuss where they are now, whether it's within the States and beyond. And so it's a good opportunity for you to get that face-to-face connection with returning alum.
And I think what you said when you said beyond is that because we have a fairly large international student population, is that there are opportunities really across the globe, and that we have alumni connection, kind of everywhere. So it's not just domestic jobs, but jobs and internships and experiences really everywhere. And in fact, I just ran into an alumni at that conference I was mentioning that I went to, who, because of the connections he made with his roommate and people here, he decided he wanted to go study at the University of Beirut. So he just got his master's in psychology there, and is going to come back and kind of present his master's thesis to people here. So that's another example.
I think that connection with alumni and professors is important. One little story that I have is that we had a 1-year visiting position in economics this year, and we knew one of our old econ majors had graduated from Earlham and was doing his PhD at a college right now, and we were able just to call him up and say, hey, you want to come in and take a year and teach for us? And because we had kind of kept in contact with him, and we knew what he was doing.
So shifting gears a little bit here, but some majors tend to be a little more rigid, and you have to take this class and this class and this class. But how is that with your majors, and how much flexibility do students have? Are they able to get all the classes that they want to take?
Do you want to start?
yeah, so I'll start that. From the politics perspective, like I said earlier, we kind of changed up the major about my sophomore year to now be the arts, which I said earlier was the argument, research, theory, and simulation. So you have to take various courses that fulfill those requirements, and then you have a certain number of classes you have to take in the politics discipline. But something that they did that I really enjoyed is basically now you are heavily recommended or almost required to take an economics course or take a statistics course, which is very useful nowadays as a politics major. And that alone shows you that it's not just politics classes. It's also interdisciplinary in the fact that you are now taking politics, economics, and then anything else that you deem interesting as well. And I think that's across classes. By going to liberal arts schools, you're not just secluded to one department. It's not just your politics major, that's it for 4 years, that's all you're taking. No, you're going to take business classes if you want. You can take psychology classes if you want, which I have. You know, these are all different things that you can do to better shape you in your major, because although we may not have, let's say you're a politics major and you specifically want to do American, well, you can take more American politics courses, but you can also say, maybe I have an interest in going into medicine or something, and I want to take some courses that kind of would help me with that. So you're not really, I guess, secluded to one particular classes as a politics major. You can actually go around, but always keep in mind that you want to get out of college in 4 years. Parents would love that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, make sure you get all the major requirements out, but you can also go and dabble in other fields that interest you as well.
The psychology major is fairly flexible. We have kind of one little series that you have to do. So you have to take stats and research methods, which is your general introduction to how we do research in psychology. Then you take what we call kind of a content research class. So an example is the psych of prejudice. So you're learning about the psychology of prejudice, where does prejudice come from, that sort of thing. But there's also a heavy research component where students in groups are conducting their own study. So they're reading the literature, designing the study, and then running the study during the semester. And then you have to take, after you've taken one, there are many, but after you've taken one of those content research courses, then you're ready to do your senior research. And that's sort of those are the ones that are mainly you have to do in that order. But a lot of our other classes kind of complement each other in many different ways. So we have some students who take 2 or so classes in psychology every semester, but then we have students who take 3 or 4 in one semester and then don't take psychology classes and really kind of go out into the college learning about other stuff and then come back to psychology. So ours tends to be fairly flexible in what students need. And all majors, I think, regardless of how flexible or I don't want to say inflexible, but how, kind of you have to take this and then that, you can go abroad with majors. Some of them require a little bit more planning, but it's possible in all majors to go abroad, which I don't necessarily think is true at all colleges.
Right, I think that's right. I think in both the management major and the economics major, there's those core kind of courses that are required, kind of the foundational courses, but then there's electives. And so, we have some econ majors that are more interested in kind of financial economics, and so their electives they take in that area. We have got others that are more interested in international issues, and so we have a couple classes that they would take there, or game theory, or in management. Maybe their focus is in marketing. They have a few elective courses there. But we do, I will echo that when kind of setting up the major and kind of the requirements, we keep a close eye on, can a student go abroad for a semester, right? That is, we have to make sure that there's a semester where anybody who wants to can do it. So yeah, we really keep an eye on that.
Along those lines, are there any programs that a lot of students in the social sciences end up doing for a semester off campus? We had talked about the Philadelphia semester, but are there other programs that lend themselves to the social sciences?
For politics, I think the big two would be Northern Ireland and then the London program. Northern Ireland in particular is from what I've heard from other students. I personally haven't gone on it, but they do internships possibly ranging on policy issues or on campaigns and such, and that alone gives you an alternative perspective from the American political system and the international political system. But Northern Ireland and London are generally the two that politics majors would go on.
In psychology, I mean, a lot of our students are kind of attracted to Philadelphia, Northern Ireland, or London, but honestly, psychology is the study of people, and there are people everywhere. And so we've had students go on many other programs. We've had students on the Tanzania program, on the New Zealand program. We had a student who recently just came back from the Tibetan Studies program, which is in Dharamsala, I think, and she just loved it. She really connected with that, and kind of thought about it psychologically, and then brought information back that helped her think about her psychology major in a different way. Although she was not doing psychology while she was there, but almost all of the study abroad programs are flexible for psychology students.
I'd say that's the same for the econ and management. Management students really take advantage of the Philadelphia program because of the great internship opportunities there. In econ, they tend to do the London program because some of the econ faculty tend to lead that program more often than not. But we've had students do the Southeast Asia program, and so just all over.
Yeah, and I think an alternative also, not just on semester programs, would also be something that we have called May terms. And these are smaller, not less intensive, but they're shorter. They're 3 weeks, and various professors in politics have gone to Europe. If you have an interest in climate or energy, alternative energies, they've done one there. And it's across disciplines as well. May terms are just another option for students as well.
Get some great transferable skills. Right?
Absolutely.
So Rachel asked a question about whether students can audit classes, not just in the social sciences, but at Earlham. Is that something that students do at Earlham, auditing classes?
They can do it. So yeah, you absolutely can do it. It's kind of up to the professor. I don't know that students do it a lot. I've had, I think, one student audit a class before, but it's something that they can do. And then you can also take, I think, 2 classes for credit or no credit, which is basically pass-fail. So you have to do well enough in the class to get credit for it, but you don't have to get a grade. So a lot of times seniors who have kind of met the requirements and just want to go learn about something else, but don't want to have to worry about the grade, will do a credit, no credit class.
Yeah, and I tend to get seniors doing the audit thing too. That is, they just, they're busy with their senior capstone, they're busy with their other classes, but they really, they thought they always wanted to take this particular course and they wanted to just sit in. And so yes, I mean, it's certainly done.
Yeah, and I think some of them will do it also because they may have a particular interest, but maybe that's not their major.
Yeah.
I know last year we had a neuroscience major that sat in our legislative toolkit class for politics, which basically taught you how to be a congressional staffer. And these are, once again, the keyword for Alex, transferable skills that she took from that class that is going to help her when she decides to go into public health policy as well.
So if anybody has any lingering questions, please shoot those our way. And as we're nearing the end of our chat, is there anything else that you guys think would be valuable to say?
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
So I was wondering if you can talk about the, what does the S stand for again?
Simulation.
Simulation, yeah, because I think my understanding is y'all do some pretty interesting
Yeah.
simulations, and students may not know what that means really.
Yeah, I mean, these vary across the board, really. Like I said earlier, now the politics intro courses are all kind of lumped in one. Your philosophy, your American, and your Western comparative politics are all in one now. But when I took it back in my day, back when I was a freshman, in our comparative, we looked at the Iraq election of the past, and then we recreated it. And it didn't have to have the necessary outcome that history remembers. We could possibly change it in our classroom setting, at least. Another one that we did, it's slipping my mind right now. Oh, for the legislative toolkit class, it's part of the congressional staffer. You're going to go to hearings. So we did a hearing that is very close to me on PTSD, and we basically spent a whole day basically in a conference room and had guest witnesses that were students with very good at that issue, and we did that. And then another one that I had was looking at alternative forms of government. So these range from, I guess, charismatic dictators to totalitarian ones. That word is always difficult to say for me. And then we kind of had mini debates on that and looking at the different alternative perspectives for that. So for politics, it's a huge thing to have because politics in general is you're going to discuss a lot of things. You're going to have a lot of, not like debates or arguments, but you're going to have people with different views. And those, once again, are good skills to gain, and that Earlham makes sure that you have if you decide to go into politics, but also across disciplines as well.
I guess one more thing about research, since that was something we talked about early on, was we host an annual research conference at the college, and that is an opportunity for students to present their research, and they do it in different formats. They can organize an hour-long panel, or they can present an individual paper. A lot of seniors do that, but we also have, first years who worked on a project and want to present it. And so even if a student doesn't want to go to a national conference, halfway across the country, they can have an opportunity to present their work here, and I really enjoy doing that.